I've sometimes heard Cathay called the High Elves of the humans, and the comparison definitely makes sense. Today we get to see those two factions face off, with Hanadin's High Elves facing off against the Green One's Jade Army, which seems very appropriate here given his username. Yeah, Cathay coming in hot, so let's take a look at the builds here, and we'll talk a little bit about these factions and kind of how they're related to a degree. The Archmage here with high magic up in the sky. Very interesting choice. I'm not the biggest fan of high magic myself, but definitely interested to see how it goes here. Apotheosis is a heal, so it's decent, of course. Soul Quench is also decent. I didn't realize that the Quenched effect seems to do a pretty solid amount of damage in and of itself. I'll have to try that out. That's really interesting. I didn't realize it actually had a damage over time attached to it. But anyway, we all learned something new today. Frostheart Phoenix, we've got some White Lion Infantry once again up front. Very cost effective. Archers in the back. This time with some Silver Helms. Shields, a Deathcaster as well. Probably just for Spirit Leech only. Just for Fate of Buna, just in case of some elite infantry that needs to get nuked. Yeah, Silver Helms, and Silver Helms. Interesting. I feel like Jade Lancers actually trade pretty cost effectively with Silver Helms, but that's neither here nor there. What is here is Miao Ying transformed already into a dragon, some Peasant Horsemen, and we do have some Jade Lancers, Peasant Long Spears, some Jade Warriors up front, Jade Crossbowmen, as we saw there in the intro, and then, yeah, more Jade Lancers over on the far side. Nice combined arms Cathay army here, but how will they get on? Let's see. I know these kind of side-shotting magic missile spells can sometimes be quite devastating. That does a solid amount of damage, but then I mean, that damage over time effect happens, it's only 3 seconds, right? So it happens so fast. I really don't feel like, I don't know, given the cost of the spell, that's necessarily worth it, especially you have so many options with the High Elves. But let's fast forward a little bit as these players approach and, you know, kind of get into position here. White Lion Infantry is going to be very solid, but you can see a significant disparity in model count. The High Elves are literally outnumbered 2-to-1 in raw unit models, so that's something that's potentially alarming for the High Elves. They might face some overwhelming numbers here as they try and attack this position. Yes, the missile resistance for the Lions definitely helps, but crossbowmen have decent enough armor-piercing damage with focus fire, and especially with Harmony, they'll be able to get some damage done. And going back to my comparison between these two factions, I mean, I would definitely say that Harmony and Martial Prowess are two of the better kind of passive army abilities in the game. I mean, they're certainly not the best by any means when you look at factions with actual active army abilities, like, obviously, like Slanesh or Ogres, but in terms of just having like an ability that's active, High Elves I would almost say is better because Martial Prowess is just always active. You don't have to worry about positioning your units, bringing missile units like you do with Cathay, with Harmony, right? But the two effects are similar to a degree, and Harmony in terms of raw power, I guess, is more powerful. Even Martial Mastery, yeah, it's Harmony, I think, at the highest modifiers does give you just a stronger effect overall, but let's see how they compare in melee. Yes. So far, the Jade Warriors are doing alarmingly well. White Lions are actually performing fairly poorly, but once they start to get into combat, and especially without the Harmony modifier active right now, White Lions should be able to do okay, but we do have a big blob of like these Silver Helms and other units. It's absolutely juicy for Miao Ying to try and call in some AoE damage there, and the duel of two magical flying casters here. Miao Ying obviously going to be a much better combatant, but is getting shot by the High Elf missiles. If we look, the Cathayan missiles instead are focusing on like troops, right, rather than trying to focus down the Lord, which probably smart. I mean, the Lord's threatening to a degree, but definitely the more threatening units for Cathay's army are the High Elves troops themselves. I don't know if the High Elves actually have a great answer for Miao. I mean, I guess 2v1 with the Frostheart and the Archmage, they could probably get it done, but Miao Ying has the rare ability to escape from the Frostheart Phoenix by just transforming. You can also just do this, which is, you know, land, rear charge, terror out some of these white lions, and then transform so that she can now heal herself with a nice regrowth and fight the Frostheart Phoenix with that supporting infantry. Being a smaller target, she's going to not take as much damage. Archmage is going to try and charge in, though, and take advantage of that lowered armor. Solid charge bonus on the Eagle, so a quick hit and run is in order, but let's see if she tries to stay long. Silverhelm's also getting in here, messing up these crossbows, but just overall, take a look here. Cathay, like I said, just swarming effectively. High Elves are consistently facing 2 to 3 units at a time. I mean, locally, they're able to get some superiority over some overextended Peasant Long Spears, but that just leads to these Silverhelms also getting damaged by that spell fairly significantly. So, yeah, this is kind of more typical of what's been happening in this battle, is that these White Lions get, you know, isolated, rear charged, and dragged down. Another nice Soul Quench, though, going out in the distance, but it's not looking particularly good for the High Elves right now. Cathay fairly far ahead on the balance of power. See, the High Elves can definitely pull something out with the healing. Obviously, the Frostheart Phoenix as well, maybe get some terror route going. Start to see some of these units off, but as we saw with some previous games, once your support units run out, single entities, they have to be extremely strong to actually carry you. On ultra unit sizes, the actual rank and file troops, I feel like, are so much more important. Not that monsters are bad by any means. They're still an integral part of most builds, can be very strong, but you need to have those support units in place. Rank and file troops. Let's take a look here at what the High Elves have left on that front. Still got some Silverhelms here. The Death Mage also, I guess, counts technically. Kind of, not really. Not really rank and file, but some archers here, some White Lions also significantly isolated. But at this point, Miao Ying can transform back with relatively low risk, even if, you know, yeah, looks like the High Elves are just going to throw it in the towel there. So, interesting one. The build from Hanniden's, I like a lot of aspects of it, but at the same time, like I said, I think you're just lacking a little bit in width. I also think this is maybe a little bit of an awkward matchup for High Elves. It's hard to really say for certain, but if they can do a lot of things here. I really like the pick of Miao Ying also. The High Elves could try and respond with somebody like, obviously, Imrik is what we saw with yesterday's game, but it's definitely a big risk with Cathay's missiles, so it's an interesting one. You know, I'm definitely not an expert on this matchup. I feel like it's very dynamic overall, though. Like, both these factions can go a couple of different ways, but the one biggest difference between these two is that the High Elves had to struggle with cost and efficiency for a long time before they got cost effective, whereas Cathay really only had to go a couple of patches, I think, until they started to get really strong, especially in land battles. So both of these factions, I think, are probably equal in terms of power level. I don't know. Cathay is definitely one of the stronger land battle factions. Really need to do up a tier list sometime soon. Maybe I'll wait till Chaos Dwarfs. But anyway, that's it for this game. I'm going to quickly show you Game 4 so that we can get to Game 5 tomorrow. In Game 4, Hanniden's Blood Dragon faced off against Valkia the Bloody in a match that must please Khorne greatly. Both forces heavily featured monstrous infantry, with the green one's Khorne having lots of spawn, and Hanniden's bringing in plenty of Vargeist and Crypt Horrors both. Ultimately, in this monstrous blob grind fight, the vampire counts ended up winning on attrition, with Valkia being bloodily sniped by the Blood Dragon. Blood. That's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for the thrilling Game 5 conclusion of this awesome series. Thank you so much to the BBB lads for allowing me to take part in casting this tournament. It's been an absolute blast. Stay tuned for the rest. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.